This is Limonium perezii, Statice, or sea lavender. And this is a great seashore plant. This is a plant you're looking at here is in Santa Barbara, California, and it was shot in early April. And as you can see, it's in full display. These typically bloom their heaviest in spring and summer. And although seems like they're always in bloom when I see them. So because we don't have a lot of these where I live, I can't tell you exactly when they bloom, but the book says spring and summer, and I certainly see them blooming a lot of the time when I'm around these, and which I've been numerous times during the year. So in design, well, I'll just kind of talk about where you can use these, because I'm in a warm inland valley where it gets quite hot, and I've seen these used, and they will grow and they can tolerate the heat, but they cannot tolerate the cold past a certain point. They're hardy to about 25 degrees Fahrenheit. And if it gets down in that range, that's pretty dicey. That is where you start having these die on you. So if you're going to use these in frosty areas where it gets below 30 on any kind of regular basis, just know that you might be using it more as an annual than a perennial. These are a herbaceous perennial, and the leaves themselves you saw, and we'll see here in a moment, they're leafy, big leafy, like a lettuce leaf kind of green, and then you see here some of the yellow and redder leaves, and those are just leaves that are under stress coming out of winter. And you can also see underneath the plant there's some dead leaves. So these tend to sprout out of more vigorous pieces of the plant as they get older, and then you get some dieback in older parts of the plant. These are also will go to seed. They naturalize in certain areas. In San Diego, I've seen these growing on the side of the road on sandy kind of sandstone hill areas, and so these do go to seed in coastal areas, at least in Southern California. And so the size of this plant, you probably plant these at about 18 to 24 inches on center, typically from a 1-gallon container, and they make a great little accent. These flowers are great to dry. A lot of us have seen these in arrangements or as a dried flower, and it's interesting, even when they're very much alive, they already feel like they're kind of dried. The nice lavender purple color is the calyx, and then you see white in there as well, and that's the corolla in the inner part of the flower. So beautiful flowers over a very long period, and nice in the front of a border as an accent, as you see here on kind of the end of a planting bed. And the height of those flowers is about 2 feet to 30 inches. And the foliage itself is probably 12 inches high, plus or minus. I don't know that there's a lot of downside to this plant. I've also seen it used in deer areas, so I believe it's pretty drought tolerant. But I would probably test that one out. I'm sorry, deer tolerant. So but I would test that. But as many areas as I've seen it naturalized in, I'm kind of assuming that too, that's deer tolerant. And it's certainly drought tolerant. This plant does not get any seasonal water for 5 to 6 months in summer and fall in Southern California, and it's growing wild, so it can certainly be very drought tolerant. And I think that's about what I can tell you. It likes full sun. It's going to bloom best in full sun. Also likes well-drained soil. The places I've seen it do its best are coastal, and the characteristic of Southern California coastal is that it's very sandy soil. Any kind of herbaceous perennial that I've had experience with like this does not tend to like it very wet. Many times you'll get crown rot. So if you combine heavy soils or wet soils with cold temperatures, and you get that kind of winter combo, I think that's the main reason these get wiped out where we are, because I think the wet roots along with the extreme cold is just too much stress all at once on these plants. So Again, if you're coastal, I think this is a great little perennial to use, and in a mixed border, these could combine well with rose white Medlin ground cover, rose coral flower carpet, pink ice plant, euphorbia wolfenii, geranium mavis simpson, yellow daylilies, lantana, loropetalum plum delight, pink ivy geraniums, polygala petite butterflies, dwarf sweet pea shrub, and many others. And that is Limonium perezii, Statice or sea lavender.